This video is part of a playlist on Machine Complex. Watch from top to bottom. Link in description. Idle armies are driving me nuts. Take two armies. One is stronger than the other. It doesn't matter which one. The chance of complete neutral KO is very close to zero. In other words, one army will win, the other will lose. One should attack, the other should retreat. Yet both are idling, just staring at each other, barely outside each other's gun range. Or even worse, sent into the middle of nowhere because of a strange rally point. Guys, what is this? Seriously. Why would an army ever idle? You could think of some excuses. It's idling so it doesn't donate reclaim to the enemy side of the map. But this excuse is not valid. You can reclaim, even on the enemy side of the map. Get engineers there. If it's far away, transport them. If regular engineers may die, use Sparkies, bring deceivers, bring mobile shields, or the ACU. If there is a risk that even those die, the game is at a stage where you have access to support ACUs. Go get that reclaim, even on the enemy side of the map. Excuse 2. It's idling because you don't know if you'd win or lose if you attack now. Well, this excuse is not valid either. You have to be able to predict the outcome of a battle just from looking at the strategic overview for half a second. There may be some borderline cases, but even then, it's your responsibility to tell. Watch your replays and sandbox complex fights to learn. Excuse 3. It's idling because you don't know what your opponent has. Well, come on. Get some new intel or take an educated guess based on old intel. It's not so difficult. Excuse 4. It's idling because it's waiting for reinforcements. Well, when an army is too small to survive on its own without reinforcements, it should travel towards the place from where the reinforcements are coming. Meet them halfway and actively regroup to avoid losing in a defeat in detail situation. So some of you are going to say, wait a moment, what if the first part of the army is holding an important expansion while the second part of the army is still traveling there, and you can't retreat the first part because the expansion would die? Well, then the army is holding the expansion and it's engaged in combat, exploiting the tankiness of the surrounding structures, and it's not technically idling. And well, if there is no combat, then it's clearly the mistake of the attacker who lets his superior army idle. Excuse 5. It's idling because the enemy has air control and you don't want your army to get bombed. This excuse is not valid either. Mobile shields or dodge micro mitigate the damage of the first pass of the bomber. With comparably inexpensive and very cost-efficient anti-air units, the bombers won't get a second pass. They die next to your army, and since you, the land player, has actual battlefield presence, while the air player can only use stalling tactics at best, you, the land player, will get all the reclaim. And same for Navy players, if we were talking air-Navy interactions. And what if there is no or too little air-to-ground weaponry in your mix? Well, then you should have babysit your unit compositions and do it next time. Excuse number 6. The army is idling because it's facing a strong Firebase. Well, not a valid excuse either. The Firebase doesn't move, so you keep the initiative at all times. If your mobile forces get stalled by a Firebase, self-destruct most direct fire weapons, reclaim them, put their mass into indirect fire weapons. The enemy Firebase won't kill your indirect fire weapons because indirect fire of the same tech level has higher range than Firebases. Did I mention that Firebases can't move? Make sure to keep only a bit of your mobile direct fire forces to make sure your indirect fire does not get taken out by ridiculously low amounts of spontaneously constructed enemy mobile direct fire weapons. And of course, if there is a way to move around the Firebase with or without transports, do it. Excuse 7. It's idling because without the protection of an anti-nuke, it would get nuked. Okay, we are getting a little ridiculous here. So you see, if an army is idling, it's typically a mistake. Even pros have idle armies. But that doesn't mean it's fine to have idle armies. It just means that even pros can still improve. So what can you do to avoid having idle armies? First, set smart rally points. Send your units to the front lines instead of keeping them in your base. Hold high interest expansions at 50% map control. Only go beyond 50% or stay under 50% map control when you know for sure that you have a significant advantage or disadvantage in the area. It goes without saying that you neither keep your tanks out of position far behind the front lines, nor stream them into a superior army one by one. Tip number 2. Attack if you will win, and retreat if you will lose. Micro in a stalemate. Dodge micro, kite micro, fan out, move closer together using spread attack, or perform hit and run tactics. There is going to be some sort of micro that is going to benefit your army, depending on the unit type and situation. 3. Get good intel so you know when to attack. That's easy. Tip 4. Use smart unit compositions. Land scouts give radar to your army, mobile anti-air and mobile shields grant survivability even if air control is lost. Engineers and support ACUs will let you reclaim even on the enemy side of the map. At the beginning of the game, build generic unit compositions, then adjust your mix on demand. Tip 5. Add a small share of long-range weapons into your mix, not only because of PD. These also punish your enemy for letting their army idle. One mobile missile launcher in 5 T2 tanks can repay its own cost multiple times by killing idle enemy units over the distance, for example. As you observe, your opponent is doing this, keep your army moving to evade. You can see higher level players doing this, both the indirect fire in the mix and the evading. I hope these 5 tips helped. I understand it's unrealistic to expect that we won't have idle armies anymore. I have idle stuff in all of my games myself. But we can make FAF a better place by acknowledging that idle stuff, including idle armies, is an indication of low quality gameplay. We must try to improve.